The rain had stopped just moments before the streetlights flickered to life, leaving the city glistening as though wrapped in silver. Inside a small, dimly lit apartment on the edge of town, a man stood in front of a cracked mirror, tying the same faded tie he had worn to every important moment of his life. His hands shook slightly, not from fear but from the weight of what was at stake. His name was Daniel, a single dad, a waiter by day, handyman by night, and tonight, after years of giving all of himself to his young daughter, he had finally agreed to something for himself, a blind date. But what haunted him was not nerves about meeting someone new. It was the fact that he had only $10 left in his wallet. $10 to his name. $10 that should have gone to groceries or bus fare. Yet tonight he had chosen to spend it differently. He walked down to a tiny flower stand, the kind run by an old woman who seemed to know the language of love better than anyone else. Daniel picked out a single rose, carefully wrapped in brown paper. As he handed over his last bill, the woman smiled knowingly. "For someone special?" she asked. Daniel forced a small laugh. "I hope so." And with that, he walked toward the restaurant, unaware that the woman waiting inside was nothing like he imagined. Unaware that she was a millionaire CEO. Unaware that this night would change his life forever. Before we dive deeper, if you're already feeling the pull of Daniel's story, if you believe in love, kindness, and second chances, don't forget to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel Whispers of Kindness for more heart-touching stories like this. The restaurant glowed with warm golden lights. The kind of place Daniel had only ever walked past, never entered. Tonight he felt like an intruder. His shoes were scuffed, his shirt ironed as best as possible with an old, temperamental iron. He carried the rose like a fragile treasure. Across the room she sat. Her name was Isabella. To anyone who glanced her way, she seemed like any other woman enjoying a quiet evening, her dark hair falling gracefully over her shoulders, her eyes sharp yet distant. But what no one could guess was that she was the CEO of one of the city's most successful tech companies. A self-made millionaire. A woman used to people fawning over her wealth, her power, her influence. Yet tonight she wanted none of that. She wanted to meet someone who didn't know her title, who wouldn't measure her worth in dollars. Daniel walked toward her table, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. "I'm Daniel," he said softly, offering the rose with a shy smile. Isabella looked at the rose wrapped so simply, so humbly. No expensive bouquet, no flashy gestures, just one delicate flower, chosen with care. She felt something stir inside her chest, a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you," she whispered, taking it gently. "It's beautiful." They began to talk. At first, it was small things, favorite foods, books they had read, awkward jokes that made them both laugh a little too hard. Daniel listened more than he spoke, his eyes lighting up when he talked about his daughter Lily. His voice softened, tender, when he described her drawings taped to their walls, her laughter that could make even the worst day worth living. Isabella found herself leaning in, hanging on every word. This man was different. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't talking about cars, promotions, or vacations. He was talking about love, sacrifice, and hope. But then, as the night deepened, Daniel's truth began to show in little ways. When the waiter brought the wine list, Daniel politely declined, knowing he couldn't afford even a glass. When Isabella suggested dessert, he hesitated, calculating silently what little cash remained in his pocket. She noticed. She noticed everything. "Daniel," she said gently, "don't worry. Tonight is on me." His pride stiffened, but her smile melted it away. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to relax. And for the first time in years, Isabella felt seen, not as a CEO, not as a millionaire, but as a woman. As weeks passed, they continued to meet. Parks instead of fancy restaurants, long walks by the river, coffee in tiny cafes where the chairs wobbled and the cups were chipped, and every time, Isabella fell a little deeper. But Daniel, he carried a secret fear. What if she discovered the truth? That he was barely making ends meet, that sometimes dinner at home was just rice and beans, that his suit was borrowed, his shoes second-hand, his life a constant struggle. How could a man with nothing to offer possibly deserve a woman like her? One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching the city lights, Daniel confessed. His voice shook as he told her everything. How he had spent his last 10 that first night just to bring her a rose. How he had nothing to give but his heart. Isabella's eyes glistened. She reached for his hand. "Daniel," she whispered. Do you know why I wanted to meet someone through a blind date? Because I was tired of people seeing my bank account before they saw me. That Rosie, it was the most beautiful gift I've ever received, not because of what it cost, but because of what it meant." Daniel blinked back tears. For the first time, he realized she wasn't pitying him, she admired him. And then, one day, Isabella asked to meet Lily. Daniel hesitated. His daughter was his whole world. But when Lily met Isabella, something magical happened. The little girl ran into her arms as though they had always known each other. Isabella brought coloring books, but more than that, she brought kindness, patience, laughter. In that small apartment, filled with worn furniture and cracks in the walls, Isabella found more joy than in any of her mansions. And Lily, she whispered to her father later that night, "Daddy, I think she's an angel." But every love story faces its test. One morning, a headline splashed across the papers: Isabella Ramirez, CEO of Technova, seen with mystery man. Paparazzi had followed her. Pictures of Daniel holding Lily's hand now circulated online. Daniel panicked. He felt his world closing in. How could a man like him fit into a life of cameras, business meetings, and boardrooms? He called Isabella, his voice breaking. "I can't do this. I don't belong in your world." Her silence cut deeper than any words. But then, softly she said, "Daniel, don't you see? It's not about belonging to my world. It's about building our world together." With tears streamed down his face, he realized love wasn't about what he lacked. It was about what he gave. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps us share more stories of love, hope, and second chances. Months later, Daniel stood again in front of the cracked mirror. This time, though, his hands didn't shake. Beside him stood Lily, adjusting his tie. At the end of the aisle, Isabella waited, not in a boardroom, not in a mansion, but in a small garden, decorated with wildflowers. As Daniel took her hand, he whispered, "I thought I had nothing to give you that first night." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Daniel, you gave me everything." And with that, the man who once had only lard 10 and a single rose gained a love richer than anything money could ever buy. Because sometimes, the smallest acts of love, the ones that cost the most to give, are the ones that change lives forever.